Thank you everybody for joining today to talk about Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways, formerly known as Office 365 Custom Learning. As Brent mentioned, this is one of the new solutions that we enable and deploy into your environment if you choose to do so, to help train your end users on how to use the tools related to Microsoft 365. So why did we build it? One, we know that customers want to be able to customize content for their particular environment, right? You don't want to necessarily send everybody out to support.office.com where we have all of our tools where they can learn more details about how to use those tools. You want to really tailor it to what your organization has chosen to roll out. You also want to make sure that training is kept up to date. So because we tie directly back into support.office.com, you are always getting the most recent content that we've uploaded to that location. And we know that customers want more of a centralized experience. So again, instead of sending somebody out to another location to get their content, they can stay within their existing portal environment and use that to provide training assets. So really the core of the foundation of this solution is that it's built using a SharePoint modern communications site template to make it rich and engaging to end users. It utilizes its custom learning web part that we have deployed. And actually, once you deploy it, you can use it within any site that you choose to within Office 365, even embedding it in pages that you can embed into Teams. And we're connected to that online catalog of the Microsoft training content, again, to make sure that we're keeping content up to date for our users. So how it really works, just a little bit of a quick understanding of this, is that we look at support.office.com. We may eventually push this out to other places like docs.microsoft.com. And then we pull that basically into a repository where we store all the links to these particular playlists, assets, and pages. And then basically we feed that into this web part that's a part of the solution. Again, what you get with this experience is that you get that full, rich SharePoint modern experience using the communication site. Not only does it work on your browser, right? It works across browsers, it works across devices, and even your mobile devices. It's nice, easy, rich to review and understand and work through that content. And then that gives you the ability to customize on top of what we automatically deploy for you. And we'll see some of that here shortly. Again, you're always getting that up-to-date content feed coming from support.office.com. So as you can see here, not only do we pull in text, but we pull in those videos, again, because video helps users retain what they're seeing, right? Instead of just hearing about it, we can help those users retain that content by showing videos. And these are short videos. They don't take a lot of time to go through. Where we enable the ability for our customers to customize what's available to their end users is through the administration of the web part. As you can see here, there are a couple components where we can actually choose to hide or show some of the default playlists and categories that have been configured. You give the ability to create your own custom playlists. So maybe you don't want to always show just Office content. Maybe you have internal tools that you use. You want to build playlists around those. We give you that flexibility as well. Another nice advantage is that we provide the ability to basically deep link into these locations, right? So I can deep link into a particular playlist. So I can grab that link and I can put it anywhere within my organization, right? And that will take people directly to that item. Or even I can go down to the asset level. We also provide the ability for users to copy that link so that they can share it with other folks as well via email or other methods. So from an availability standpoint, it is currently available today in beta. You simply go to the link below, aka.ms/CLO365. We also have detailed documentation on how to deploy this. So if after today you're like, how did we go about doing that? And you don't want to go back and look at the video, you can certainly go to this other link to find out more details of how you configure individual pages, how you can actually redeploy the tool if you need to, a lot of steps around that. One thing to note, when you do go to deploy this tool, there are some prerequisites. You will need to have your global Office 365 administrator do the deployment. There must already be a SharePoint app catalog, and the person doing the deployment must also be a site collection admin of that app catalog. So those are some default settings. Also to note that that app catalog has to have existed for more than 30 minutes. Otherwise, the deployment may not go through. So let's go ahead and jump into demo. So first, we'll start with the actual deployment steps. So that aka.ms/CLO365 will take you directly to this page for the Microsoft 365 Learning Pathways. You'll see up at the top right that I have already signed in as my global administrator for my tenant. And you will see then the add to your tenant button. So again, we're trying to make this as easy as possible to deploy to your organization. So I'll go ahead and select add to tenant. This will go ahead and open up that new page with some settings that I'll be able to configure. So number one, I can say, where do I want that notification email to go once the site has been once the solution has been provisioned. Then I have the ability to choose what do I want that URL to be. So maybe I want to change it to Microsoft. And then I can go ahead and click my provision button. So first it'll validate the URL. And then I'll click provision again to validate all the prerequisites have been met. So as I'm going through this process, there are a couple of things that you haven't seen because I've gone through this before. And one is a prompt around, hey, do you accept these permissions for us to deploy? So an administrator might be like, okay, I don't know if I want to accept those particular permissions. We do give the ability for you to also manually install. There are also ways to, once provisioned, to go back and remove the permissions that were granted. So really, I recommend everybody go through this method because it's the easiest and richest way to do it. If security is concerned that access was granted, they can certainly go back in and remove it after the site has been provisioned. So I'll go ahead and click confirm here now. So I'll go ahead and it'll go provision the site. It takes roughly about 15 minutes before it's completed. And again, the administrator will get a notification that it's done. So that's really it for the deployment aspect. So what you get when that initially finishes is that you get this site. So as you can see, again, it's that communication site. We've got some default navigation that's been added to the top. We'll go through that a little bit later. And we've got the rich page that goes out to some default links that we've already set up around training. We also add a default news article about becoming a champion for Office 365, and then we default an event into this calendar as well. So again, this is that basic portal that gets set up. Let's go ahead and look at one that's been more customized. So here you can see a couple of things. I've got my new layout. Really, we've got the same at the top, but we have additional news articles that have been populated. I've got more events coming across the bottom. I also have added things like links to other resources that may be useful to end users. So user comes in, they see this page, that's great. They then want to maybe jump into one of these trainings that they're like, okay, start with 6 simple steps. That sounds easy enough. Let me jump into that. That will pull them into this particular page, which is essentially a playlist for those users to sift through, right? So if I look through this page, I can see, okay, welcome to Office 365. Oh, and I've got a video that I can start playing directly from here. That's great. Also up at the top, I have a search, so users can come in, they can search for other assets or playlists. So maybe they want to look for teams, they can certainly come in here and do that. The ability to grab that link directly to this content. Again, I can come in here, click the link button, copy it, I'm good to go on my way. Send it through email, post it as a link on another site, what have you. I can also click on this menu and see all of those steps that are a part of this, right? So I can easily go through those or jump to those and skip ahead if I want to. So let's say I've watched this video and now want to go to the next video. Simply click my next button up here to go to step 2. Again, more context. So we're getting that. We have the text, we have the video. Again, that video provides that rich experience that users retain a little bit better. So again, I can keep going through my playlist. So that's really the end user experience. And what we have from the navigation, right? We have our home, we have our Office 365 training with links directly out to some of the targeted training that we want to provide users. And then we have our Ask Questions and Get Help. So if I go to my Ask Questions and Get Help page, for example, I can see some big call outs. So ask questions. Maybe you want to link that into your Yammer group that you might have that's all around, training for Office 365. Contact the help desk. Maybe you want to provide a link to your help desk's website to get some quick help, right? Support a ticket. Maybe there's an actually issue that you're experiencing. This is a quick way to jump to that. Get more training. This may jump out to a calendar that you have of all your upcoming training events. And then join the community. This one's a pre-built link that's already available when we deploy it, and it takes you out to our Office 365 Champions community, where you can go out there, you can learn more, you can learn from others that are using the product, right? So again, this page is something that's a quick reference for users, but you have that ability to fully customize this. So let's jump back to the home page again. So if you're the administrator of this site, you want to come in and configure it for your particular needs. Again, it is a SharePoint modern experience. So right now, this particular site is a member of SharePoint hubs, meaning I'm automatically inheriting the theme that's been provided at the top level. But let's say I wanted to make some other changes to the site, maybe make it a little more unique. I can go to my gear icon in the top right here and select change the look. And here we have theme. Again, it's going to tell us we're inheriting, so we can't really change that. But then we can go into our header and we can change it from compact to standard, right? It changes this a little bit for you. You can also go ahead and change your site logo to make it what you need. And then because we have a base theme, we still do get additional flexibility. So we can change that top to match some other colors that we might want to use for our theme. So we'll go ahead and leave that for now. We also see navigation. So by default, I have it as cascading in my environment. I could easily switch back to a mega menu, again, providing that type of navigation experience you want for your users. And then of course, footer. At the bottom of this page, you have the ability to add your own logo for a footer, create a footer name, and then of course, add additional navigation links if you want some links to persist for users as they go throughout the site. So that's real quick. That's how we can change some of the high level items. If you need to change your navigation, let's say you don't want to have all of those links available quickly, or you want to add new targeted links to targeted training you want to focus on. You can come in here and work on your navigation for that particular location. So if I wanted to get started with OneDrive, for instance, I can grab that and drag it to elsewhere. If I want to go ahead and edit this, I can simply select it from here, maybe change my title, change my link, or I can come in and add maybe a link to a new location within my site. Go ahead and cancel out of this. So next, let's look at the page details. So as I mentioned, we've expanded on this a little bit from the default. And if you're not familiar with SharePoint site collections or modern site experiences, you simply have to go up and click edit as that owner. And now I can go down on the page. I can come into here and edit these if I need to. I can go into my news web part. So I can come down into my news web part, for example. Right now you see make a difference. That's one that we kind of like to have pinned if we can, so that helps people understand what is this really important for? What do I want to do? But as you can see, I've added other posts. So if I want to go in and make sure this is always pinned, I can do that with my news web part. So as you can see, we have some additional options. If I don't like the way this looks, I can come in and I can change that up to really be what I want that experience to be for the user. I can then scroll down and I can choose to filter based on keywords or what have you for this content as well. But here I've actually elected to choose to organize my news content because, like I said, I want this to always be pinned. So if I select news to organize, you can see that I've got number 1 set. Everything else is automatic. So as I add new articles, they will change the items that are on the side, or I can come in here and I can drag other items into the locations that I want to store them at. So again, giving you that flexibility to post what you want to be available to users. Now down at the bottom, I've also added those additional links. So this is a quick links web part. Again, for those of you not familiar, you can come in here, click this little add button and choose various web parts that we give you access to. So I've added links. And as I again go into my links, I once again have the ability to customize again how this looks really easy for my users. So here we've actually added a bunch of our blogs to our public sites that show, hey, here's what new stuff is coming, here's what you can expect, right? We've just added those for some context. And when you add in these links, it will actually try to automatically unfurl that information. So if I added a new link, it will go ahead and look for the image to use. It will pull in the description. It'll pull in the title. So it makes it really easy, again, for you to do that. You don't have to worry about being a designer. And then, of course, the last one, which is another idea that you might be able to deploy to yours, is there are plenty of user groups in the area, right, that users might want to visit from time to time to get additional learning from experts that might be in the field. So again, some really good flexibility that we have for customizing this page. So we'll just go ahead and click republish, and that's it for our page. So now let's talk about the core of this. How can you customize what learning is available to your users? So for that, we'll go to Home and Custom Learning Administration. And here's where we get to that administration web part. Again, this is all the same web part really behind the scenes, but we've got different views into it based on who we are. So as you can see, we've got a bunch of categories. We have Get Started, products that we default to for the organization. You can see these are most of your common Office 365 components. We also have the technology as a separate view, right? So here I'm in my categories, and I can see a couple of things. First, I have the first days. So maybe here's my 6 simple steps, right? And then I've got recommended items. But as I mentioned earlier, we've got those eyes, right? So those eyes basically would say, hey, this will actually show on that front page, or this is what we want to hide, right? So we can actually come in here and tailor this again to what we want to show to users. And that goes for all of our products too. So if I select products, you can see all the pre-built playlists that are available based on that category. And again, I can choose to, let's say, hide Excel. Nobody's using Excel, right? That's not the case, but we know that we can easily come in and hide those again. So based on your deployment strategy, your rollout strategy, you can hide that content for what you want to show. So the next step we want to kind of look at is let's actually dive into creating our own playlist, right? Or our own categories. So as you see here, let's go back to getting started. I have this ability to add a new subcategory. So maybe I want to add Microsoft 365 tricks. So simply type in your title, click save, and then you have your new category. So the next step here is to go ahead and add a new playlist. So I'll simply click plus, and I'll start with my intro. So let's just say intro to Windows 10 is going to be my playlist name. As you can see, we've got categories. So let's learn the basics of Windows 10. It's basically a get started category we're aligned to. We've already created our subcategory that we are now aligned to. So we pull that in automatically to make it easier. From a technology standpoint, we're looking at Windows 10, right? So I'll go ahead and select that. And these are really important because these are helping us to use the web part and filter it to our specific needs. I can then choose my level and my particular audience that I might be targeting, so end users. So once we've got all that done, we can go ahead and save our detail. Now, before I do that, I do want to make one more mention. If you've got a bunch of custom logos and stuff that you want to use for these playlists, you would upload them to the library here and grab that link, and you can paste it here to have your custom logo show. So we'll go ahead and save the detail now. You have to do this before you can actually add assets. So I'm not going to look for Windows 10 assets particularly right now, but what we give the ability to do is either A, create your own asset, which is basically creating a SharePoint page, or B, search for existing assets we may already have. I'm just going to type in Windows. Okay. Now I've got 2 assets that have popped up, but let's say I wanted to do something like type in Teams. I get a lot more options, right? So these are things that are aligning to that particular Teams solution or service. We'll go ahead and we'll just select one. All right, so we've got step 1. I'm actually going to do this again. We'll just select another item. Right, so now you can see we're automatically adding those steps. So that determines what order we click through or user will click through as they view that playlist. Now you don't need to do something like, oh, I put this in the wrong order and delete. We give you the ability to just move these around as needed. Now let's look at the experience from a new asset. So I'll select new asset and I'll say Windows 10 desktop, just as an example. And we have 2 additional options here. So one, create a new asset page, or we can use an existing URL of a SharePoint page that exists elsewhere in our environment. We're actually going to say create new asset page here. You can see it actually automatically went out and created that page for us. So obviously we don't have any content on that page yet. What we can do is we can click open page. And now we're brought again into that SharePoint page experience where we can go ahead and we can edit this to fit our specific needs. So again, I have the ability to add various web parts. So I can say something like stream. Let's go stream. We want to pull a video in, right? So now I can look at all of stream, which defaults and starts pulling in all the content, or I can choose a single video. Now I've already got stream pulled up, so I'll go ahead and I'll grab this video URL and I'll paste this here. What you'll also notice is that if you needed to, you could start at a specific time for this video, right? So here's our video embedded. That's great. Awesome. Now I can also do things like embed forms. So let's say you wanted to have a quiz at the end of your learning or at the end of your playlist and say, how did this go? You can certainly come in here and use Microsoft Forms to embed a form. So if you didn't have a form yet, you could certainly create a new form by clicking new form here, or we can add an existing form, which I already have pulled up. So I'll go ahead and copy this link. I'll come back to my page and I'll paste the link in here. Go ahead and say OK. And now we have a form loaded at the end of the page. Again, this could be something that comes at the end of your playlist training. If you want to know how well was this playlist work for users, right? We kept it short, we kept it simple, but we can get good ratings, and we might be able to understand how can we tweak this to fit better needs for our organization. So that's how we can go ahead and create a new page and add our own content. And as you can see, as we go in and we're adding this asset, again, we can select additional fields here as needed. So we'll go ahead and do that, save our asset, and now we basically have step 3. Let's actually look at one of these particular trainings. So I'm going to actually go back to my Office 365 training page. So this is a page you can point people to that will pull up all the products that you've elected to have as training, right? So as you can see, these are all the ones that we've enabled. And I'm actually going to dive into SharePoint. And we can see I've created an all SharePoint playlist. So I'll go into that as well. And then I'll quickly click through right to the end where I've created a page that has one of those stream videos embedded. So we can see our page content loading in here. And then what you can do with Stream now, and this is just rolled out to general production, is that you can actually embed things like forms or surveys throughout your video. So here in this particular video, we'll click play. We can actually see down here, there's this little white dot. That means it will actually take the person into a form or a quiz. So think about this, if you're doing learning and you want people to take quizzes at the end and you want to see how they did, you can go ahead and do that. Now I've already submitted this particular form, but the form would have loaded and then I would have been able to complete that, right? So it makes it real easy for us to insert this into the user experience to really get them to all trained up in understanding the tool and the product. So that's really it for the overview. Let's just jump back to the presentation really quick and talk about the roadmap. So right now we can only really deploy this into English tenants. But we are working on deploying this to support 9 additional languages. Those Chinese Simplified, Dutch, Netherlands, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Portuguese, Russian, and Spanish are some languages we're looking at. We're going to support multiple types of templates and content sets, right? So again, that gets back to expanding our playlist capabilities and availability. We're going to release additional guidance around adoption. So not only for this tool, but for other tools that we have. Actually, there was just a post the other day that came out for that. We'll be ensuring that there are quarterly updates to the new online content, right? So that makes sure that you are getting the latest up-to-date information that's available. We will be looking to GA this. It is still an open source release of the complete solution so that partners may be able to extend on top of this. And then, of course, we're adding into our roadmap for things for government, education, onboarding, and first line workers. So we're going to extend this over time. So really, thank you. If you work with an account team at Microsoft, feel free to reach out your collaboration TSP or customer success manager if you need help configuring and installing learning pathways. Happy to help do that. And at the link, again, at the bottom, we have links, quick links out to the resources to get access into this. So thank you again for your time today. And with that, Brent, that's all I've got.
Wow, that was awesome, Corey. If you watched this, by the way, you saw that at the very beginning, Corey clicked a few buttons, he followed some prerequisites, and immediately Microsoft provisioned this amazing learning pathways portal running all on top of SharePoint Online within your own tenant, right? Some of our customers stop right there and say, hey, that's great. We're just going to take 15 minutes to provision this and walk away and point our own employees to that portal. Others take it a step further, and that's what Corey showed in the later half of the session, where he walked through and really showed you how the underpinnings are simply SharePoint, right? And so with a little bit of investment of time, you can really make that learning experience your own and brand it for your own company. And so certainly appreciate you walking through that for us, Corey.